Tom Lodge.
Here.
Willie Joe Camara. Here. Dwayne Yoshina.
Here.
Rob White.
Here.
Paul Buchman. Here. Mark Bartel.
Here.
Leon Bailey.
Yep, yeah.
Tony Sylvester.
Yep.
And we have one vacancy that we need to fill. So 8, 9 are present.
All right, introduction of commission members. Can the commission members please state your name, term limit, and district? Please do your name. So if you want to start, Tom, we'll just go around.
I'm not sure what district I'm in.
You are in
5, I think. 4, 5?
Yes, 5.
5, okay. That's what I'm on here, but,
Okay.
yeah, Tom Lodge, District 5.
Thank you.
Wait, before you go, if you want to say something real short, if not, that's fine.
Oh, no, here for the mission, preserve, protect, and promote public hunting.
Willie Joe Canara, District 1, lead 5 years. And same as everybody, here for the duration.
Dwayne Yoshina, District 2. I think my thing is for 5 years. I think. Maybe not.
Yes, you have a 5-year term.
Oh, yeah, mine is 1 year.
But let me just explain very, very quickly. If you have a 1 or a 2, you can apply to have another, it's a 5-year term?
5 years.
5.
Yeah, 5.
Right.
So if you're initially a 1 or 2 year member, you qualify to be re-nominated and reconfirmed for a second term. So actually the guy with but that's discretionary with the mayor, and of course subject to council approval. So the person actually who has the initial 2-year term theoretically could serve the longest, could serve 7 years total. Yeah.
Right, because after the 5, you're done?
Yeah,
How
for
does
the
that work?
5 for a 3-year termers. That's it. So actually the person who will serve the least technically is the 2-year person because he's not eligible for reappointment. So 3 are done. And I think that selection is just done randomly. I think Shar just did a,
Right.
she may have just put the numbers in the box and shook it out.
Okay.
So I don't know, who is the 3-year member?
Richie, we can't hear you on this side.
Okay. Sorry, Barbara.
Cleon is the only 3-year.
Yeah, so Cleon.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah.
Mark Bartel, District 8, 2-year term, and it's all about game management. Couple things, right? We've got game animals, the state's got to recognize it, we need a place for them to live, we need plan to manage them, we need people that can actually execute that, and we need funds to make that happen, so that's why I'm on this board.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, District 9, 3-year term, and I concur with the
Gotta keep it under 4 hours though.
Rob White.
Rob White, District 7, 5-year term. I'm here to promote the use of our natural resources, being water and land, and being hunted, land and sea. Just get her done.
Paul Buchman, District 4, 4-year term. Here, like everybody else, just want to promote the use of our land for, for food and for sustainability.
Bobby Command, Mayor's Office, and I'd appreciate you guys over there putting on the mute because I'm getting really hungry. Every time you rustle the bag, I can hear food. No, you can eat. Leave it there. Just put it on. Just put it on mute. You can eat.
I'm good, Bobby.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Tony Sylvester, District 3, 2-year term. And I just want to say that, we have a lot of hard work ahead of us. We need to form our alliances, and we need to stick to our goals. And that's our island way of life, be it hunting, fishing, gathering, or other use of our public lands. Thank you.
And I don't believe we have anyone is there anyone here who wants to, testify?
I think I'm the only member of the public.
Okay,
I'll just introduce myself. Hi, guys. I'm Carrie. I record meetings and post them on YouTube.
Cool.
oh, great,
Gary.
okay, so now your wife will be able to watch you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is it gonna be live
No
or
problem.
later?
You know what? We could go live. We could very
Well,
easily,
actually,
but
let me just say that live is probably not, possible right now because of ADA requirements. If we go live, we need to have, what do they call it?
The caption,
Closed
lifetime
caption.
caption.
Yeah.
So,
I don't need ADA captions. I'm a member of the public.
Yeah,
I'm
she-
different. I'm like media. I'm like
okay.
press
She
kind of.
does it independently.
right, you're right.
So just hook up with
Go
me,
ahead.
and then I can do for you.
Go live.
No problem. And typically, it's when the bandwidth is the problem. So I make sure I just record the meeting and get a good recording, so y'all can play it back and listen to certain parts if you like, and then you can watch it later. But if she'd like for us to go live next time, you just let me know.
Can you put it on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you just search probably Game Management Advisory Commission and this date, you should be able to find it. The channel is called Occupy Hawaii. But you should be able to. Yeah?
Yeah,
Right on.
great, thank you.
Comes to all our events. Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome,
Appreciate
Mr.
your time.
Sylvester. Lincoln, are you gonna go?
What's that?
You have to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lincoln Ashita, Corporation Counsel.
Thank you again.
Your turn before.
Okay, let's move on to reports, special committee, county council relations. Okay, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about it, and I think this is an item that we need to put under probably new business so that I can actually formulate a plan. But I figured I'd do it under the reports and special committee, and if somebody makes a motion to, let's see, to provide an informational packet to the council, and then we can figure out what we wanna do after that. But what happened was at the council hearing on the 27th, they requested that we put an informational packet together, kind of like some of the problems we're facing, possible ways that the council can help us, and then that way they can better, they may know things that we don't know, and they can offer assistance and things like that in some other ways. So I thought that'll be a good way to get started, get all our issues down. Tom Lodge whipped together an example of something that we could possibly do. Of course, this, we can add to all this different things and stuff like that. It makes it easy to read, and each section can be about a particular thing that we're taking care of, and then we can update it as we need to. And I think it's something good that we can take, if we go to the legislature, or we go to anything, we have something that everybody's on the same page. So if I can't make it, or Tom can't make it, or whatever, hey, Paul, you're gonna be over there, you can, be all on the same page, yeah? So that's what this part of the county council presentation packet would be about. And then under that issue would be, we can cover, I have a page here of things I want to, but like I said, I think we have to do that under the minutes to make a motion to accept that and vote on it. Okay, with that said, then we can go straight to new business. Okay, we are now ready for new business. Cleon, to discuss the Congressional Sportsman Caucus.
Yeah, I would like to move that we organize the Sportsman Caucus.
Okay, do I have a second? One second. Paul seconds that.
You want to say a little bit about what it is, so.
Discussion.
Yeah, sure. I emailed everybody literature on it, so you would have an opportunity to come up to speed where we're at. Basically, it's a bipartisan congressional sportsman's caucus. And over the years, it's grown into one of the largest and most effective caucuses in the U.S. Congress. Right now, it nearly has 300 members of the House and Senate representing almost all 50 states. There's 10 states that don't have sportsman caucuses, and Hawaii is one of them. But there's also a Congressional Sportsman's Foundation, and there's a go-between between the public, or the caucus, and the U.S. Congress. Basically, after hearing requests from the Hawaii hunters and fishers in and around my District 9, regarding the subject matter of how we, the harvesters and the gatherers of Hawaii, can protect and promote hunting, fishing, and secure fish and wildlife management in and throughout our state, specifically by and through Hawaii state law. And so, upon researching, I came across this Congressional Sportsman Caucus that I just gave you a little summary about. And this Congressional Caucus, it's a way for Hawaii sportsmen to secure legislation and funding for conservation, wildlife management, and access to other lands to replace lands taken away from sportsmen through, say, Endangered Species Act. I don't know, Tony, if you grabbed the folder that I left at the mayor's office. I had left some flyers for the public. If you can pass one down to the public.
No, I didn't get that, but I just have a quick, I ran through it and I have a few quick things that I picked out of it myself, but is it up at the mayor's office?
Right, there's a folder up at the mayor's office. I think Charlotte was supposed to pass it down for the meeting and for the public to take a look at.
Okay, Bobby's gonna go and look for it. Yeah,
Okay.
Char wasn't there, sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, but the rest of the board members, they should have a copy. If you just look at this National Assembly of Sportsmen Caucuses, that's basically who the Congressional Sportsman Foundation works through. You have different districts, the West, Midwest, Southeast, Northeast. And the framework of this assembly is to support between all the state caucuses. And basically what they do is they take situations like problems that we have. We're not just unique to these problems of losing land to endangered species or funding. And what they do is they kind of use a networking system where what works for us in our state, how we were able to get legislation to overcome this obstacle. And what they do is they intercede this between each state that has that similar problem, and then they can go into the legislative body, and what they do is they have a representative for that state, which I think Hawaii needs their own representative that can represent us in the legislative level to passing bills, to like in our problem trying to acknowledge game as natural resources, to like we try to get together to have a cooperative management position with the state in managing our natural resources. And I spoke with the Western district, the regional district for the western part of the state. His name's Mr. Andy Treharney, and I forwarded you guys an organizational materials document. It's a pretty extensive document, and it kind of shows you how you go about obtaining a caucus in your state, and basically everything there is to do to set it up. And they really, when I spoke with them, they're only really interested in coming in if it's a bipartisan, if it works in a bipartisan format, where everybody's in agreement upon it from every side. And it's basically not just like hunting and fishing, it's conservation. And if the committee votes to move forward on this, and I can give more information to you guys. You guys can also download it from the email that I forwarded you guys earlier on in the week. I'll just let it go at that. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
I have one.
Okay, let's see, please address the chair, recognize, and then we'll go down whoever wants to. That way we keep it in order.
I have a question for Cleo.
Okay, so.
Did you get any response back from Senator?
Sloan.
Yes.
No, I haven't. And so what I did was,
I mean, to bring everybody up on board here, I just spoke about how the Congressional Sportsman Foundation, they really don't like to come into a state unless they have bipartisan support. We only have one Republican congressperson in our state. So, they're busy right now, as we all know, finishing up the legislative process. And Mr. Andy Trani expects to speak to him in May. I haven't heard back from him, so I corresponded with this Mr. Andy Trani, the Western Regional District Manager, and he said, given Hawaii is a unique state where it's basically all Democratic representatives and senators, so with that uniqueness, they would overlook having to meet that criteria of having, even amount of Republicans and Democrats on this foundation, on this caucus. But to answer your question again, no, I haven't heard back from Senator Sloan. But my understanding is it's not a deal breaker with moving forward on developing a caucus.
Any further questions?
Yeah. Hang on, is there a minimum of, like, you were saying, I guess I'm just a little confused on the, it doesn't need to be an equal amount, but is there, is there a minimum? I mean, one Democrat and one Republican is still equal.
No,
but...
there's not. And,
no, okay.
It could be better explained if you just review the organization.
Yeah,
materials.
I kind of did. I didn't have time to read exactly through the whole
there's
thing.
Not a set number.
Oh, okay.
What they are is they're just trying to be fair.
Right.
To every party. Not just being one, having blinders on and just driving the cart for one agenda.
Right. I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
I have one, Tony.
Yes, Mark?
So are these state reps or are these US reps?
They're state reps. And usually they're a congressperson.
So like you're talking these people actually go to DC, like Hirono and those guys, or is this like Josh Green?
Well, what if to be specific, I refer you to the organizational materials. And basically, they do have meetings, and I'm not going to tell you how many they are a year, but they do get together with the other congressional congressmen, and they discuss, like our commission. They have parameters that they have to follow by, and budgetary concerns that they are addressed to, and then concerns from different congressmen in their states.
Got it. Okay.
Any further questions? Okay, I have one. I think what the confusion is this is actually a state legislative sportsman caucus. We already have a congressional sportsman caucus, so that's separate. So there's kind of like three entities. One is this foundation, and the foundation is kind of in between the state legislature and the hunter. So that's what the foundation does. It helps be the intermediate between the state legislatures. Because your concern was Sam Sloan he's in the Senate, but in the House we have quite a few Republicans in the House. So are you talking is this only talking about Senate, state Senate, or is it state Senate and House? Because then we have other House of Representatives that are Republicans.
Right.
There's a lot more of them.
That would be fine. That would be fine.
Okay.
As long as you're showing that it's a bipartisan effort.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there was criteria in the organizational materials that there had to be there had to be 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. But I can take your question, or you can review the organizational organizing material, and if you still have any questions, I'll research it.
How How do you think the legislators would take this? I mean, would they be supportive of this? Is this gonna be a lot more work for them? I mean,
Well, Andy spoke with, Representative Cindy Evans, and she's open to looking at this and moving forward with it. I know Tom knows probably a half a dozen Congress people that are sportsman friendly, and they can be introduced to it as well. But it's just something that, you know, talking to the public in my district and other districts and saying, what can we do? And so I kind of researched and seen, hey, you know, there's this mechanism out there that I don't know, apparently we are not using because Hawaii is not a part of this Sportsman's Caucus. So when things go down in the legislation, as say like after May, when the Congress people have time to sit down and talk about other issues, and if the GMAC Commission wants to vote that we move forward in investigating on this, we can set up an appointment with Western Regional Manager and say Cindy Evans and say some Congress people that Tom knows, and maybe do it on a conference call at the county councils, like the chairwoman Willie's office, where the kind of the council's in on it as well, and see where it matures or dies from there.
okay, I have one more, is, in what capacity does this, the GMAC would be then in this? I mean, is this another agency we work with, or is this something we're gonna do through the commission?
Well, it's for the whole public. We're just, you know, I'm under the understanding that we're just an advisory commission. I mean.
No, but I mean, like, are we gonna be setting up these meetings, or is this something that,
No,
Andy would do?
Actually, if you look at this, organizational materials for this, National Assembly of Sportsmen's Caucus, it's actually a commission or like a commission or board by itself. And what it is we, like the public, we have access to them. They'll have somebody in the Capitol all the time where, say, like, here recently when we tried to submit this House Bill 104 or 105, we had, you know, we can go to them and they can, you know, help you through the process if you don't really understand, you know, the legislative process, and you know, help you bring your bill to fruition.
So our duty would be just to bring the issues to that caucus, and then they will present the information to the legislature and
Right.
back to us on how to do testimony or whatever that may be at that.
Well, they actually are a go-between for us, you know, to speak with the other Congress people, you know, at the Capitol level. And so, you know, it's just basically a liaison person between us and the Hawaii State Legislative Body.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, Rob?
From what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like a bad idea, unless anybody knows anything. It sounds like a pretty good idea. I would like to see a complete package, what it is, what it has to offer, what we owe, you know, kind of to it. So the history, what they've done for the communities that they've worked for, and perhaps present a package to the board and say, this is what they've done, this is what they can do for us.
You should have it already.
And then, what's that?
You should have that already.
Bobby,
That's
you
what
didn't find the
came-
packet?
Oh, that was all in the packet.
Yeah. I can give one example real quick when you're talking. This is 2008, it was more lands open to hunting. No net loss legislation passed in 9 states, which ensured more than 8 million acres will remain open to hunting forever. As of June 2011, 13 states have passed no net loss legislation that prevents state lands open to hunting and fishing to be closed without an equal amount of suitable lands becoming available for hunting, fishing access. And I think that's something that Hawaii really needs, because we know where we're heading.
Okay.
Yes, what do you do?
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You done?
Yeah.
So I guess, maybe, I mean, to go along with Rob, Cleon, you had said that the regional director from the western side would be willing to maybe have a conference call with us.
Right.
Maybe, I mean, I would think that that might be a good way to have them, you know, kind of hear it. Cause he, you know, obviously he can explain a lot easier than you can because you're learning it just as much as we are, you know, and he can maybe explain to us a lot better for us to understand.
Right,
if
and
we
I'm not
should
gonna
move on.
divulge a lot of my time into this, you know, I put it out there,
Right.
I thought out there, you guys have the material to read it, to research it. I spoke with him on the phone, and he said he wanted to, have a conference call between, say, a Republican and a Democratic legislator, and myself, and I told him, I'm not really the person that should probably be picked from this commission, you know, that I don't mind being there, but at least, you know, the chairperson and the vice chairperson be there as well, and that we do the teleconferencing at the county council's office, chairwoman Willie, and that way the council also has some sort of idea what's going on,
Right.
as well.
Right.
And
I think that's a good idea,
you
is
can
what
bring
I'm
us up to
saying.
date and answer any questions. You know, I would just, if this thing moves forward, it's voted on and it's moved forward, you know, just read what materials we have, forward it to us, and then you write your questions down and go from there.
So you sound like you guys are all familiar with the packet, right?
Well,
Are you?
a little,
He-
I didn't read through it all.
Yeah.
This sounds like a lobby group. They're organized lobby group. I just wanna know, what the obligations and responsibilities of the GMAC is, and whether or not our obligations and responsibilities dovetail with what these guys wanna do. I don't know how we dovetail. It sounds like a interesting relationship.
I can't read the material.
Thank you. Let's stop.
Can I answer his question?
Let's stop.
To answer your question, how I think that this would be benefit to us, we have issues that we are developing, we have, you know, different things that we come across, we have ideas, and most of what we do is gonna require legislative response, or a lot of it will. And by having sportsmen, people in the legislature who are sportsmen, and there are a bunch of them, you know, a lot of them are bird hunters actually, and a lot of them are fishermen. These people are already sympathetic to us. So we can bring them the issue, you know, whether it's DLNR, whether it's land or the snow net loss thing, which was offered us at one time, by the way, the hunters, and it was turned down. It was offered to us by Mike Buck. But these are people, I think, that we can bring them the issue, the legislative issue, and let them run with it.
So what would be our role?
Our role is to bring them the issue. They're not out hunting, they're not tramping around in the forest, and we are. And we have our constituency that are running into these issues. You know, this idea of the sheep, for example. You know, why don't we have, you know, why don't we have a place that we can put our sheep? You know, it's just, we're coming up with the ideas. We're the only advisory group right now that's unified in the state. There may be others coming along if we're successful, but we're it for right now, and we can bring them these ideas for them to run with. Cindy Evans is a good example of somebody who's been very helpful along those lines. So I'm definitely for it.
Well,
Chair, Chair
Okay.
Sylvester?
Yes, Leon?
Yeah, I would like to add comment to Tom's toward Dwayne's question. And when I introduced myself to Mr. Trani, I in pen and in phone conversation, I let him know exactly who we are, and I wrote down the proposed this ordinance number 12-110, this body that we are, and what facet we are and what we're supposed to do. So he does know who we are and what our obligations to the state and the federal and the mayor as well.
Okay, very good. Mark?
Yeah, Tony, a thought on how to proceed. I think it sounds reasonable, right? It would be great to get Andy on the telephone with this group, right? I think getting Andy on the group by ourselves so he can explain in 15 minutes or less what this is all about, what he needs to make it happen here in Hawaii, I think would be really important. Because there may be senators and Congress people that would be willing to sign up for this. Some of it might take some arm twisting, and that's where we come in, right? I think it's worth our time to get. They've tackled a lot of issues. You read through the list of what they've tackled and how many states they've tackled it. There's a whole lot of things that they understand that we don't. So to the extent we can actually make this happen here, I think it's a big question mark, but I think the first step is for us to get a hold of Andy.
Very good.
Follow up.
Hang on, I have Ike here.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea. I just wanna know what the reallys of the relationship are or is.
Correct.
That's all I want.
Develop friendships and legislature, that's what we're trying to do. I think.
Okay, Cleon?
Yes, when you get to the flyer right there, if you just read that first little paragraph on the left-hand side of the landscape page there, that'll answer his question, what this group's about. But back to, Commissioner Mark, I tried to explain to Andy, that thought, could you talk to the whole commission? And he said, no. He said, we'll talk to you and, Senator Evans and a Republican legislator. And then if the legislative body's interested in it, then they would move forward on that. It's not something, I'm not really deeply involved in this because I want, it's not my deal. The public asked, hey, what can we do to help us? I found this mechanism. We'll discuss it a little bit. If we want to vote to move forward on it, then we'll start getting deeper
All right.
into this.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of said motion, say yes.
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 Yes. Okay, the motion is carried. 8 yeses. Okay, next. Next is a Tom Lodge report on meeting with Darla of the Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau, focus on group marketing.
This is gonna be real short. I wrote the,
Oh, we gotta make a motion first and second it.
Huh?
We have to make a motion to accept this first.
I move that we accept the,
Okay. We
I
have,
second.
okay, we have a second. Okay, Tom, now it's a discussion.
what did I do with the, well, not Hawaii Visitors Bureau, the Hawaii Tourism Authority? I've been trying to move toward getting the state to be more involved in tourism hunting or hunting tourism. And I noticed, and I went to the Hawaii Visitors Bureau, they moved me over to the Hawaii Tourism Authority, or the, whatever it's called, Hawaii Tourism Authority. So I sent them an email, and I outlined my ideas and my questions to them. And I got an email back from them saying that hunting was not on their template. That basically is.
What was that?
Not on their template.
Oh.
So, that's a mission that, I'm gonna embark on further. And again, the Sportsman's Caucus, is another way, because these people are driven by the legislature, and having friends in the legislature, like that, who are sportsmen or a member of this caucus, I think would be instrumental in helping us move towards tourism, or hunting tourism as well, which will bring value of our animals to, the state. People realize that, when you eradicate something, you're wasting something. If you go out and let somebody come and hunt it, you're making $1,000.
question, did they make any efforts to fishing?
No, they said that they did a survey, and she didn't say who that they surveyed, but I can, assume who it was, and, the local community in Honolulu is not a big hunting community, of what they probably see every day. So their survey probably was gonna develop a negative response. But people come here to hunt. I mean, they come here turkey hunting all the time. They go to Lanai all the time to go hunting. Lupulakua Ranch gets a lot of people that go hunting.
The question was about fishing, I believe.
Huh?
You were talking about the fishing portion, right? What did they say?
Yeah, I guess my question was, so all of what you just said, Tom, I agree. I think people do come here to hunt. Especially, mouflon is a great example. While fewer places to hunt pure mouflon, if you want to hunt a mouflon and you're a sheep hunter, you don't have many options in the world, right? And Hawaii does have the world record mouflon sheep. Let's take on this island. But my question is, in the conversation regarding hunting, do they promote fishing?
They do.
They do.
Yes, they do.
I've never seen one, but that's interesting.
No, the Hawaii Tourism Authority, they do. It's the commercial fishing, six-pack charters, and those primarily are something that is part of their template, but hunting isn't.
Hunting isn't. Hey, Tom, to the extent you need help working on this, I'll volunteer.
You're in.
I'm in.
Thank you, Mark.
I would like to volunteer.
Perfect. Oh, great. Okay.
I'll go Cleon, and then.
Yeah, I also forwarded the commissioners, an attachment, and when Tom first brought this up, he said, hey, if anybody's got any information out there, throw it to me, and through this, Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus, they have a lot of information, and so they had information on the state of Hawaii. I emailed this attachment to you, and it basically tells how much money is generated to the state in hunting and fishing, for licenses and whatnot. It's listed right down the line as far as anglers, hunters. And I'm gonna look at this, and I see this was for 2011, and they were saying the total sportsmen that participated was 158,000. There was 156,000 plus anglers. There was 22,000+ hunters. The sportsmen spending and for Hawaii was 37.4 million. Anglers 33.1 million. Hunters 13.7 million. And it just lists how many jobs were created. The salaries. So it's a little bit of feed that you can give to Hawaii Tourism and to say, hey, this is a legitimate deal. I have a little highlighted box here that says Hawaii sportsmen and women support. Spending per day, and this is $801,000. Salaries and wages, $130 million. Federal taxes, $27 million. State and local taxes, $28 million. The ripple effect, $404 million.
Okay, Cleon.
I don't see how they can ignore this.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cleon. Rob, did you want to volunteer for something you said, or no, Tom?
I'd like to answer this question for him.
Okay, Rob first. Rob, can you?
No, I just wanted to participate in Tom's endeavor.
Okay. All right, Tom.
Actually, Cleon, I think some of that information you have is taken from the Sportsman Survey. And that information is actually an estimate based upon universal numbers that they have out there. If you remember, I think I sent all of you the actual number of hunters that the state of Hawaii has. The licenses that are sold in the state of Hawaii is actually 10,000. And they've been using that 22 or 20,000 number for quite a number of years. And it's just an estimate. So, if we go to the legislature saying, hey, we've got 22,000 hunters here, and it turns out that we only have 10,000, we're gonna have a little bit of egg on our face. So it's nice to have accurate information. But, you know, to the extent that hunting and fishing, is an economic resource here, it's a big resource that is not being properly,
Well, Chair Sylvester,
Yes, Leon?
in response to that, I'm looking at this 2012 Wildlife Revolving Fund, and yeah, I'm looking here, you know, just a hunting license alone is 152,000. And, you know, hunting guide licenses, you know, 1,200 plus. Game bird license, 5,000 plus. So, the numbers are high. You know, if you want, when you address people, you can go off their own numbers, if that's what you wanna do, if you don't wanna use.
well, we need accurate numbers.
Okay.
Well, that's always true, you hate to have egg on your face, but, they're not overestimated from the way I see it, but, I'm not an accountant or.
Okay, yeah, I don't think right now we don't have to be figuring out the exact numbers, it's just that
Right.
we know. My question is, what do we do with this? I mean, what is it, are we trying to present something to the, Hawaii Visitors Convention Bureau? Is there something that we're trying to, yes, Willie?
So I guess what I understand that we're talking about is maybe putting a package together to present to them.
Okay.
To kind of say, hey, why isn't this on your
Right.
template,
Very good.
right?
Okay. Go on here.
One thing that I know, I work with National Wild Turkey Federation, pretty close with them. I've done a lot of media hunts with these guys, and you know, all these guys that come here and do their TV shows, they take things, they take shots, they call the tourism place first up, and one of the common denominators all the time is that they have a hard time getting stuff from tourism, from the tourism authority. You know, I mean, they take their own pictures and shots and everything to have in their shows, because if you watch a lot of these shows, they're not, especially ones when they come to Hawaii, it's not about the actual, it's more, majority of the show is more about the landscape, and I mean, a lot of these guys are really trying to help promote the hunting here, but they do come by a little bit of resistance almost. You know, it takes some time to send them the stuff. One guy that, you know, has worked a lot with that, really trying to promote is John over in Kona, John Sabati. And he might be somebody that you can kind of feel out a little bit too, because he's worked with a lot of these guys. Every year we have at least two that come home, 2 or 3. And they do promote a lot for them. And yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
We need to put something together.
All right, now, Paul?
Isn't there a Hawaii Island Visitors Bureau also?
Yes, there is. It's
That maybe should.
operated by George Applegate, and I can get you that contact.
What's his name?
George Applegate.
Applegate.
He's the executive director of the Hawaii Visitors Bureau. I would also say that, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, please.
that there are possible resources available with research and development as well. And I suggest county, yes, and you may approach them and see what might be able to,
Very good.
what might be available.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion? Leon?
Yeah, I couldn't hear the outfitter or the source that Willie Joe had mentioned, for reference for information.
Oh, John Sabati.
Oh, yes, a good one. And Tom, I just wanted to remind you that we have a Patrick Fisher that has safari outfitting, and anyway, he works with TNT networking, And they're always promoting Hawaii and all their shows that they do. They always mention the Hawaii Tourism Board, convention, tourism and the convention board. And so he might be somebody that you can, or we can, somebody they're delegated to contact and say, hey, you know, how can we spread this to the rest of the charter fishermen? Or like, I know Norm Isaac in the past had a local show here, and he always was big on the Hawaii tourism. He was able to use their logo and drop their name, and maybe we can pick the ball back up again.
Very good. Any more discussion? Okay, I guess all in favor of said motion? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Got 7 yes, Ike?
Yeah.
8?
All opposed. All opposed. All opposed.
Yeah, all opposed. Okay, the
Anyone
motion is
opposed?
carried.
You have to say that afterwards
Oh,
too, just
okay,
in case.
all opposed. The motion is carried. Okay, then I guess anybody wanna add anything? Minutes
That's-
now?
I just want to confirm, that's gonna be Mike, Rob, and myself.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, we're in new business. Anybody else has anything?
Just, for my edification, I just would like these motions to be restated before we vote on it.
Okay.
That's-
Right, okay,
I just want clarification.
okay.
And I'm really concerned about, what our responsibilities and obligations are in all of this. Because I'm not comfortable with being an advisory member, commission member, and I think these are good ideas, but I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that we are advisory. We have to be careful about, you know, when we get into organizing and those kinds of things. I think, I don't know, I think the land gets a little soft with this stuff.
Hey, Tony, Ike's gotta speak up. We
Hey, Mark.
cannot hear a word he's saying.
Mike, can you?
I'm just saying that I have some reservations about our advisory status and how much proactivity we can have in saying that we're going to organize or pursue organizing of certain things. That was one thing I spoke up, I asked. And then the second question I had was more of a statement to clarify a motion before we actually vote on it. Because while we all might understand what we're talking about, I don't know how much of the public will understand. And we need to clarify what the motion is and what we're voting on.
Okay.
So in the future, I appreciate that.
Maybe on something with, for instance, what you're talking about with Tom is that the motion be that we ask the mayor to authorize GMAC to X, whatever, Y or Z, whatever the I think that, would that solve your?
Yes,
That's much more, you know,
That's why when I asked where we're gonna go with this, because it's just a statement, on a report that we're gonna make, what are we gonna do with it? That's when we needed the motion to do something with it.
And I'm pretty sure that the mayor's going to say, go ahead, feel free. But that might make everything a little more easier for people to understand if they're.
So this
if
is
they're
something that
watching
we would run by the mayor, ask,
It would be to ask the mayor to authorize GMAC to, I guess, look further into, go ahead.
Well, the three of us actually initially are gonna have to approach the Hawaii Tourism
Right.
Authority with a package of why we would like to pursue this. If we can, you know, develop some dialogue with them as positive, then we would come back to the mayor probably at that point and say, hey, we want your blessing to move forward with the GMAC, you know, endorsing this. Is how I kind of understand the idea of having these little
Yeah,
groups.
you know, I just want that, the clarification part, so that if the public is watching.
Right.
It's
Understood,
clear what
yeah.
we're doing.
And I agree that we probably should state the motion one more time before we vote. Okay.
So, in the future.
Right.
Up to now, I'm good.
Okay.
Cleon?
Yeah, Chair Sylvester, I concur with Commissioner Dwayne. And I always keep the proposal right in front of me. Whenever I'm doing anything, I'm like, you know, this is basically an advisory position. And so I try to make sure that I'm always looking at that whenever I'm trying to investigate something for some public member that's asked me to look into something. And I almost did bring up, you know, should we bring this to the mayor's attention before we ask anything further from Mr. Andy Trani regarding this Sportsman's Caucus? And I think, you know, Dwayne will see again without spending a lot of time that it's not nothing that we're ramrodding. We're really not part of it. They organize it themselves. But it'll be a tool for the public and for the commission to use, a tool. But we're not promoting it. You know, I just introduced it to this organization that there isn't a state representative. How come?
Okay. All right, Cleon. May I ask on Lincoln, do you see any civil problems with us doing any of these approaches? All right, thank you. Any further discussion? Any new?
Oh, I just had some, sorry, Chair, I had, just some information sharing. So, just digging up some different things, mostly with invasive weed control. So, I have a report here from, and sorry, Mark and Leon, I'll get you guys a copy of this if you guys want, or just like maybe like the cover sheet or the abstract or something, because it pretty much covers the whole article. But, so we got gorse control with goats and sheep, you know, is one. You know, gorse is pretty bad up the mountain. Another one is fireweed, using the same thing, using sheep and goats. And this is from New Zealand, this one study, and this other one is from Australia. So two areas that are, you know, kind of similar, you know, to our environment over here. They had ranch land, they had all these animals, they have, you know, gorse, they have fireweed, you know, they have some of the same issues we have. And a lot of this, they recognize the fact that there's not just one silver bullet, you know, and we look at a lot of things up here, just, you know, one solution and that's the only way you do it. It's actually a cohesive management plan, you know, using both sheep and goats, you know, along with, you know, herbicides and, you know, other types of mechanical control. But there's not just one single, you know, solution for that. And I just, good reading, you know, kind of keep the ideas of, you know, we already know that, you know, use, you know, sheep and goats, you know, keep down, you know, a lot of the invasive plants that are here already. But
Can't wait to share that with Lisa tomorrow.
yeah, there you go. But it's
Mr. Chair,
just information sharing.
I think this is the kind of stuff that, hopefully we might get more into this so that we could send a letter or a recommendation to DLNR telling them that, hey, this stuff is out there. Have you guys read it? Can you guys entertain some of this stuff in your approach to resource management? And not to change the subject, but there was another matter that came up recently that I thought we might want to take action on, and that is recently this guy Paul Baki or something like that. You wrote him a letter. No,
Paul.
Banco.
Oh, Banco, yeah.
Yeah, and he was talking about the Palila project, and I think Tom on his own wrote him a letter asking to see
Oh, right.
the report, and I was wondering if we got one back. And I would suggest, if not at this meeting, at the next meeting, if we could introduce a motion to say that GMAC would like to see a report from him about what he's done, so that we can at least review it and come to some conclusion on our own, you know, and take a stand on these kinds of reports that are being provided to the public. Because as I read parts of that report, I thought it was a sell job for himself and his project is what it was, to be kind.
Okay. Thank you, Ike.
Okay.
Here, point of order here, Lincoln, in a normal meeting such as this, can, during announcements, they introduce things to be spoken, to be talked about at the next meeting? Like, for instance, the Gorse project.
Normally at the end of meetings, there's an opportunity to, it's up to the chair, up to the commission, like, there's no set protocol, but what has happened is members are allowed to ask that items be placed on the next meeting agenda or future agendas for discussion, but again, this is not, it's just a protocol. The chairman is responsible for setting the agenda. It's discretionary with the chairman as to what to put on the agenda or not. The council, for example, has a rule that allows the council chair or committee chair to withhold an item only up to 2 meetings. So the council chair can be, a committee chair can actually block something on an agenda, being placed on an agenda, but can only block it for 2 meetings. Then the rule says he or she has to put it on. You folks don't have rules yet. Okay? So in the absence of rules, it's up to you whether you want to do rulemaking. That's another kind of another issue. But right now, as we speak, the basic protocol is discretionary.
You get that, Mark?
You probably.
Not a word.
I know, I saw him raising his hand, I'm like, oh.
But,
There'll be a video later on YouTube.
if we're still on new business,
Well, before you go on, essentially what Lincoln said, and I asked the question whether it was appropriate for commission members to introduce things at this meeting for discussion at the next meeting. He said yes. It's not a written rule, but it's okay. I would guess that we cannot discuss these things at this meeting, but we can put them on the agenda for the next meeting for discussion. That's essentially what that conversation was.
thank you, Bobby.
Okay. Mark?
Potentially the next meeting or some future meeting.
Okay.
I think it's important, now that we have a new Big Island manager that's been named, to start understanding and developing a relationship with the DLNR members responsible for the island of Hawaii.
Yep.
So, earlier we decided we might want to get Jordan Tokia to come to the council, or the commission. I also think we should have Lisa. Tony, I would suggest a couple things. Number one, I think a group of us should go meet with Lisa, try to understand how she wants to interact with us, and bring forward a recommendation to her on how we would like to interact with DLNR on the island, right? And once we do that, then I think we need to bring Lisa to the meeting and have a good in-depth discussion about what are our issues, where does DLNR stand, here's our priorities, where do they map with yours? Because I think it's incredibly important we have an understanding of what their list of priorities are versus ours, and then how we make movement against those.
Okay, will do. Cleon?
Yeah, in adding to this future discussion at the next meeting, cut me off whenever you want, but you know, I just hate to waste time in the next meeting discussing futile stuff. I mean, this issue about gorse, I mean, it's a federal mandate. You know, when you're talking about using ungulates on Mauna Kea, there's a federal mandate saying no ungulates, so it's kind of futile. I mean, I've brought this subject up before with DLNR personnel, and they just say it's a federal mandate. So, you know, if we want to discuss it next meeting, fine. As far as sitting down with, you know, the new administrator or supervisor or manager here over Lisa Hathaway, pretty much all of us in this, both rooms know their positions. You know, it's, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, we pretty much know their position, and we know the hunters and fishers position. Whether or not we can come to terms, it hasn't been happening. That's why this commission was voted in the first place. I'm just thinking that.
I think we have a new opportunity with new people present and this new commission that maybe we can achieve more, hopefully. So I definitely think Mark's suggestion, and we'll put it on the agenda.
Okay. I would like to second that. I think we need to at least get from the horse's mouth, we need to hear what they've said, you know, become familiar. Hopefully they become familiar with us.
Okay.
And what Mark said is very important, that we establish that relationship. Let them know where we are coming from, so that they can let us know where they come from, and we can work towards some goal.
What are you doing tomorrow at 1?
Okay, Tom, you were raising your
nothing.
hand. What are you gonna say?
Camp 4%?
Go ahead, Tom.
I actually have a meeting with her tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Great.
And my purpose for meeting with her is to get her vision of what she sees in the forest, what she sees with hunters, what she sees, what her idea, what her overall vision is of what happens, to get a feel from her exactly what her motivations are, what she feels that DLNR's motivations are, because she's not marching to her own drawing beat, she's marching to Isla and the rest of them. So I just like to see, and she has some power, but not much probably. So I just wanted to meet with her, and if I get free tomorrow, he can join me at this. But we need to find out what their vision is before we can come up with some way to meet what their objectives are, what their goals are, or how it, you know, how they have a tendency to conflict with ours. The watershed is a good example. You know, you know, we have a document here that the DLNR put out, for example. I forget what they call this thing, but it's a game management, resource management guideline. You folks have probably seen it. You know, it talks about what they're going to be doing with the ungulates and the birds and everything else here on the island. And then you look at the watershed plan that they have, and the watershed plan completely eradicates everything that they talk about in their resource management plan. So, you know, there are some inconsistencies in the DLNR's own message to the public. And before we meet with them and start saying what we want, I'd like to find out for myself at least, and I think the commission would too, what it is, what their vision is and what they want. And so that we can find some way to meet their objections and their plans. They have not tried anything that has been offered them, you know, as far as, you know, can you put some animals in a certain area and see what damage that they do, and, you know, do a chronology or a cataloging of what goes on and so forth. And, so anyway, I'd just like to hear from her first, to find out, you know, so we can explore with her what her mission is, so we can identify areas that we can go back and say, hey, this is a solution to your problem.
All right, thank you, Tom. Okay, any further discussion? Leon, one more?
Yeah, could you maybe, could we all think about maybe adding the topic of AKR 124 on the next meeting? I don't know when the next meeting's gonna be, if it's gonna be.
Well, I'm gonna make that meeting next So, we'll make the next meeting, and then under announcements, I have a couple of things to announce, and then
Yeah.
we will, because I'm already looking at 4 items already for next time. So maybe the next one, we'll, put that HAR.
Well,
Is there anything specific with the HAR you wanted to, address immediately?
well, written testimony, I mean, if you talk to your district people, you know, written testimony is due by the 19th of this month. And from what reading, it looks like they can make a decision at the next BLNR board meeting. I know we're just an advisory commission, but, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of a hard one, Leon, because I think we'll have to bring that up as an agenda item. I don't think we can really talk about that right now. Because that's something specific action that we have to do immediately, and that's, we're not gonna
No,
make that.
I wasn't, maybe I wasn't clear on that. I kind of tied two things together, but what I was saying, that was just an informational piece thrown in on that subject, that if you get confronted by hunters and fishers in your district about you had a meeting, what went down about ATR 124, to say that was really discussed, but you have till the 19th to submit written testimony.
Okay.
I mean, we're advising them that they have till the 19th
Okay.
to submit written testimony. That was what I was trying to
Okay.
say.
All right, thank you, Leon.
Yeah.
It's Willie John?
We're still on new business.
Yeah, sort of adding.
Okay. Sorry, I may have misunderstood, but, with the way in the beginning when that plan that, Tom had kind of put together,
Oh,
I
yes,
was,
the county.
I was thinking we were gonna throw out some ideas to add to
Yeah, I'm
that.
gonna do it under announcement.
Oh.
I'm gonna announce that that's some of
Oh.
the stuff, because I didn't wanna just hog the whole meeting.
Right.
I'm just
Oh,
gonna
okay.
rip through
Okay,
some of the things, so you guys can have thoughts when you guys go home, and then
Oh,
for the next
okay.
meeting, it's
Oh.
gonna be the first agenda item of the next meeting is this county
Okay.
packet. What we can start, everybody's.
and then I had another question that I've been getting a bunch of people from all over the place actually asking me this question, and it's maybe just a question for Bobby actually. It's in regards to getting guns registered. I guess there is guidelines that people need to, you know, when you purchase your gun or firearm, you need to go and get it registered at the police station. But I guess they're coming into some problems where I know the Waimea is one, Waimea Police Station, Kona guys I got, where they're making them make appointments to come in and get that done. And a lot of these appointments are a lot longer than the 3 or 5 day period. That after you purchase your firearm, you need to get in and get registered
10 days.
for 10 days. Well, I mean, there's people that are needing to wait 2 weeks or more to get their appointment to go in and just fill out a paper and then measure the barrel and get it done. I don't know who we would need to address. I mean, I'm getting a lot of people asking me that question. It's like, what's going on with the police station and why all of a sudden now they need to make and even to get, to go to apply for your permit to acquire a firearm, it's taking a long time. So
It's.
one instance, our Turkey Federation banquet, we had the ending of last month. There's some people who purchased firearms there that still haven't gotten to get their permit to acquire yet, you know, or just this week, and it's been 3 weeks now, so.
Is there something we can do?
It's a manpower problem that was created by, quite frankly, the shootings in Connecticut. There was a reaction, people have, and I'm not sure whether it is or isn't, but people are thinking that there's going to be tighter controls on weapons. And so a lot of people went out and, or want to purchase guns. And there was a big rush, and that's the problem. And I have talked to the captain, or I'm sorry, the AC. And they're working on it, they're trying to get more people to.
Oh, okay.
handle
No,
handle the-
like I said, it's just been a question. I was wondering how it, because this has been way before Connecticut, it's been happening already. But,
Okay, that's fine.
On that issue, it's not here so much as it is on Malone, actually. Because they send everything down there and it's down there.
yeah, but it's just, technically they're kind of breaking the law, I mean, they're forcing us to break the law by not having available within the 10 days. But,
That might be
that's a
something, that's
concern.
right, that might be something you might want to have maybe the mayor talk to people about clarifying.
Yeah.
That would, yeah.
So anyway,
Okay,
that's all I got.
okay, next meeting, Cleon?
Yep, I think Council Sheeta can address it, he's probably heard some, but I heard on the news where they were gonna extend that period because of the JAMA, just to avoid prosecution. I don't know if Council Sheeta
Yeah,
heard anything
no,
on it.
nothing at this time.
Yep.
I can add something if you want.
Okay, Rob?
You are right, it has a lot to do with the shootings, but it has also to do with funding, which is why the furloughs, like, what is it, the first Friday or last Friday of every month they furlough. Melanie, I'm pretty tight with Melanie at the Kelowna Police Department, and, I don't know if you know, but I'm an FFL. So, they're working on getting somebody in the offices, but it's a process, long process to get somebody in there. You are right, it actually started more with Obama being elected, so way before the shootings. But because Obama's anti-gun, that's when more guns started being sold, and then the shooting just furthered that. So they're working on getting the funding, but it's a tricky thing because they're trying to reduce the amount of people in there and the expenses, but they're weighing it out to how many people are buying guns. So I'll tell you this, as far as the annoyance and inconvenience of not being able to register your gun on time, as long as somebody at the police department who has authority tells them that you have a set date to come in for whatever, then you're okay. Because we get registrations all the time that are not exactly to par. They don't have a picture on there, or the address is funky or something, and we still, hey, the police department put it out. It's not it's their plea on it, that's their deal. So I have to accept it. So like I said, it's the inconvenience of not being able to, I guess, use it. But as far as being prosecuted, if they have a day to be done, that's what they can go by, so you can rest a little easier. with that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, like I said, it brought up a lot of.
Very annoying.
A lot.
Extremely annoying.
Right, okay, thank you, gentlemen. All right, for next meeting, I'm looking at Monday the 13th, May. Same time, I guess same place. If we can do Polycom, it's be fine. So Monday the 13th, 6:30. All right, under announcements, I know it might not be the right area to do it, but I wanted to talk about the county packet. But I got two things. One was that I talked with Jordan Jukio, and he's anxious to meet with us. I'll schedule him on the agenda for May 13th. And he has information that he'd like to share with us also we can ask him some questions. So I think that's really good. He seems like a really nice guy. I never got to meet him face to face, but he's wonderful talking to him over the phone. Second thing is a concern, and I don't know where we want to go with this, but just keep in your mind that I've been having several prominent hunters complaining that there's too many pig hunting tournaments. In fact, there was just 3 in the past month. And they want to know if we can do anything about that. And we don't decide any of that stuff now, but just think about that. And okay. Then the last is the county packet. Just a couple of things offhand. I met with DOFAR manager Lisa Hadway. She's in support and willing to work with us to find new sources of revenue for the Wildlife Revolving Fund. Find private grant opportunities, marketing, and state-directed monies. Okay, we need to come up with ideas to secure funding to the Wildlife Revolving Fund. How can the county mayor council help us with that? Again, we need to set up a meeting with Senator Kahele and Solomon to gain support to increase money allocated to the Wildlife Fund. We're currently discussing that with Onishi and Representative Evans. Another one is work on our amendment to SB 1166 for the next legislative session. This would direct the percentage of convenience tax to the Wildlife Revolving Fund. What support can we get from the county, mayor, and council? And then the Habitat Conservation Plan in Pu'uhonua and Pu'uawa. The Endangered Species Recovery Committee needs to refer the HCP plan to the billionaire for approval. It's a big holdup right now. I asked if we can help in any way to support this effort, and it was silent, so I don't know if we can. But okay, and a long-term plan or goal, and this is where part of Paul's sheet at Gorse would work great, is that all that Gorse is in Department of Hawaiian Homes land. Department of Hawaiian Homes land needs to generate revenue from their Pu'uhonua parcel. So a suggestion was made to work with Deputy Chair Kia'aina to see if a land swap could be made for that parcel. Department of Hawaiian Homes land would benefit by having a better parcel to generate revenue, and State DLNR could gain by providing a place to hunt upland game outside of critical habitat. So of course, it's a long-term plan or dream or whatever, but from Hawaiian Homes land perspective, they need to generate revenue, and they can't generate much revenue with that parcel. So maybe some in the future, then there can be a swap somewhere for that. And that came from DLNR, talking with them. So, and then of course, continue our direct dialogue with PTA Commander Eric Schwedo in regards to hunting opportunities in Keeaumoku, get a status from DLNR. How can the county mayor, the county assist? We also talked about the possibility of opening dates for youth hunts and tree planting in Keeaumoku. Can the county help support this effort by providing resources to do this? Question why I asked that is the county awarded $15,000 to the Mauna Kea Watershed Alliance, and I'd like to know what that money is being allocated for. So it's county funds going to the Mauna Kea Watershed Alliance. And then finally, how can we get the county to improve an easement to hunting and gathering at Kapukoea Homestead Road? The county was given an undeveloped easement as part of the approval to subdivide the area. No improvement to public access has been made. So those are things that I think we can incorporate from my perspective into this packet with whatever else you guys have. Thank you. Okay, with that said, anybody else?
Yeah.
Leon?
Chair Sylvester, under announcements, just for feedback to the public, is Council Ishida or you, is there going to be any discussion about the recent lawsuit on the Hawaii County ban on no fly?
Yeah, it would have to be agendized, put that on, talk about it, so. If you wanna talk about it, it would have to be our next meeting.
Well, I don't care if we talk about it or not. I mean, I got, the paper called me and wanted to know, are they gonna appeal it, or what's the issue, and I told them, I have no information for them.
Okay, Lincoln, can I ask you for any assistance with that?
Sure. I can, what I can do is, I will, prepare an update and I'll email it to all members. And that's okay, because, that's informational. But I'll blind copy everyone, so if you have specific questions, you just reply to me, you don't reply to all. And that way we comply with the sunshine law requirements. So I can do that, I'll try to get out something out tonight if I can.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Lincoln.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, any further? Okay, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? It is moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?